What's up guys, it's All Day Anthony, and in today's video, one of my cars got keyed. Let's fix it. Alright, so I wasn't planning on making this video, nor do I really want to, but here we are. So long story short, my wife and I went to dinner the other night to a restaurant downtown which had no parking. So unfortunately, I had to park on a weird side street, and I kind of had a gut feeling about parking there, like it wasn't a good idea, but I said, no, Anthony, you're just being crazy. So we went to dinner, went home, came out the next morning to the garage, and saw this. And I was completely wrenched. I was so pissed. Who would key our car, right? We didn't piss anybody off. We didn't cut anybody off. This was literally just a result of somebody who had nothing better to do other than pick up some negative karma points. So anyways, I'm going to try to make light of a bad situation and show you guys how to improve or hopefully remove a deep scratch like that in your vehicle's paintwork, whether it's caused by key or something else. So we're going to examine the scratch a little bit further. We're going to go over the tools I'm going to use to hopefully improve or remove this, and then we're going to get to work. Alright, so taking a closer look at our scratch here, the general rule of scratch removal is that if you can feel a scratch with your fingernail, then typically it's too deep to remove. Now, that is not always the case, as different manufacturers of vehicles will put different amounts of paint and clear coat on. So it's not always the end of the world. There might be a chance to improve it or remove it. Now, taking a look at this right here, this is somebody who half committed to doing the key, right? They basically left two tails here, and they started here, and they went, oh, it's not digging in deep enough, and I'm not a big enough piece of shit, so I'm really gonna grind it in right through here and then finish it off. Now, those people, again, there's a special place for those type of people who key cars. And how do I know it's a key mark? Well, if you take a look at just a normal key here, a key has a little bit of dimension to it, right? It's got two different ridges. There is two different spots here where the key kind of took place. So it started here, and then it switched to another ridge for a second, and went through and switched back to the other ridge, and then finished that off. All right, so here's a look at the things we're going to be using to hopefully improve, if not remove, this key scratch. Now, some of you might be seeing this stuff and thinking, oh God, the machine kind of scares people, but we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. But just note that key scratch removal is usually left for professionals, if not a body shop, because this can really get spendy depending on how bad it is. But hopefully we're going to be able to remove this with stuff that's all obtainable by everyday people. So jumping straight into this machine right here, it's called the Porter Cable 7424. It's basically a starter detailer machine. It's a random orbital machine. It's about $100 off of Amazon. Totally worth it. You can buy this once and use it multiple times, and it's going to pay for itself. Typically, your friends might even have one of these, and you can even buy the cheaper Harbor Freight version if you want to, and then simply swap it out to a 3-inch backing plate. Now, this is going to be the thing that's going to be buffing everything out. Is it required? No, not really, because you can also hand buff it with something like a microfiber pad and a little bit of compound. So the thing that's going to actually be removing the scratch itself is going to be our sandpaper. This is called 3000 grit Trizact paper. They make this in multiple different shapes. This just happens to be from a 5-inch sanding disc that I cut in half, but I will link some normal 3000 grit Trizact below. It's basically a cushiony and very soft sandpaper that's not going to do a ton of damage, meaning that beginners can use this and it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. It's not like I'm starting out with 800 grit or anything like that. So 3000 is going to be ideal. And then to remove the sanding scratches that we're going to put in with a little bit of water here, we're going to use a compound here. This is called the Last Cut. This is my preferred compound of choice. And then we're going to pair that with a wool pad. The wool pad and the compound on this machine is going to remove the sanding scratches that we put in with the 3000 grit. So that's going to do that, and then we have a foam pad which is going to remove the light scratches that the wool pad may put in. So the combination of all this should result in a pretty decent improvement in everything. This is not scary to use. Honestly, if you can use a power drill, you can use this. This is actually even easier than a power drill. As far as the sanding goes, I'll walk you through how that works, but trust me, with 3000 grit, you're not gonna do a whole lot of damage, hopefully. Now, if the scratch is really, really bad, like it's really, really deep in there and you can see bare metal, that's when you're gonna wanna use something like touch-up paint. I really like the Dr. Color chip system because everything is color matched, but I have a feeling we won't be needing this today. Now, other people may use just a standard touch-up paint and they will build it up. So meaning that they'll fill in the scratch, they'll sand it down, fill in the scratch, sand it down, fill in the scratch, sand it down, put a little bit of clear coat on it, and then buff it all out. That's a fine thing if you want to go through all that work for a somewhat decent improvement, but I find that Dr. Color chip can often give me the same result with a lot less effort, especially when I'm using like a squeegee or something like some micro brushes here. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump straight to the work because I know I'm boring you guys to death. All right, so to start off, we're going to begin by cleaning the area first here, just using a little bit of quick detailer. Now, typically, when it comes to removing a scratch, one kind of tell of knowing how deep something is that if you spray liquid on it, whether it's water or whatever it is, if it disappears, chances are it's very surface level and you can probably remove it with just a little bit of compound. Now that right there, I can see that it kind of darkened it a little bit, but once I blow on this, it's gonna come back fully white. So what I can tell from here is that there's a good possibility that I might be able to improve this quite a bit, but it may not completely remove it. But I've done enough scratch removal in my life to where I know that this is definitely going to be a sanding situation, because if I were to go straight in with just a compound and pad, I'm gonna be removing more material around the scratch itself than I need to, because I'm gonna do that and then find out that, yes, I do need to sand it. So no need to do multiple steps. But the general rule there is that you always want to start out with the least aggressive method first. So don't jump straight into sanding if you don't need to. Maybe do a test spot first, see what can be improved with just compound and a pad, or a compound and maybe like a little bit of like a towel here, and then kind of just Mr. Miyagi it and see what happens. Now, just because people are going to want to see what this might look like, here is just a little bit of compound on a microfiber pad here, and I'm just going to simply rub that in, try and get that scratch out, and then check out a result here with a towel. It's still there. All right, so here we go. I have my Trizac paper here. I have water. I'm going to soak my Trizac paper down. Now again, this is just a disc that I cut in half just to make it easier to hold on to, but I'm gonna fold it in half here because I'm gonna have double the cushion here from this particular style of sandpaper. So soak this down with water, soak this whole area down with water, and I'm gonna start on one end of the scratch and start working my way down. So there's really no such thing as too much water here when you're wet sanding. So I'm gonna start about right here, fold the paper in half, and I'm going to lightly, I mean, I'm talking like barely any finger pressure, even finger pressure across all four. Just start going up and down. And I'm going to make my way down this section. Spray more water as needed. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction. So here's me going in the other diagonal direction. And this is just very light. Now the reason why you don't want to go heavy on this, even though it's 3000 grit, is that you don't want to put any type of deep gouges. Let's just say if it picks up a corner or something like that on the sandpaper. Now body shop people will say, why didn't you just go in with like 1000 grit? Well, I'm showing people how to do this. Most people don't know how much damage 1000 grit can do. So go like that, check it out. I think we're making a pretty decent improvement. Like right there was really improved. Over here still pretty deep, but that's getting a lot better. Let's blow on it. Now over on this side here, I think I'm gonna stop there. And the reason why is that a wise detailer once told me, sand to improve, not remove. And mainly that's because we don't want to remove too much clear coat. Because if we remove all this clear coat here, then for many years to come, this clear coat may not last and may start to have failure there, and we don't want to do that. So we want to leave enough clear coat on the surface to where this car can still keep going without having to need a respray. I'm going to make just one more pass through, and we're going to see what happens. Again, I'm not putting, barely any pressure at all. This is just from my fingertips. And I'm going this way, this way, this way, this way. And this is just to kind of disperse the sanding scratches so nothing is super visible even after buffing. The sanding marks look pretty good, pretty universal. This right here is what I'm kind of worried about, but we're gonna go ahead and buff it and see what happens, because worst case scenario, we can always go back and hit it again. But yeah, we don't wanna keep going without testing it first. All right, so we have our Porter cable plugged in here. This is a Rupa's yellow wool pad on the 3-inch size to match the 3-inch backing plate, if you're curious. So this is gonna go right here. This is also the same machine I use to buff out headlights. This removes yellowing off of headlights with literally this and a microfiber towel. You'll have your headlights looking brand new again, especially if you also sand them, which I have several videos on that. So I guess I should say at this point is that if you haven't seen my videos, I have headlight restoration videos on this kind of stuff. I have rock chip repair stuff with that Dr. Color chip system like I was talking about for deeper scratches and chips. So you can check that out as well. But let's get back to this. So I have my last cut compound here. I'm gonna do a couple drops. And I have a good feeling about this because I have some karma points I've been wanting to cash in for a while here. So I'm hoping this is where this all works out for me. So taking my machine, spread in my compound at a speed of 3.5. Again, buffing. I'm gonna bump it up to a 4. Set that down. Take my towel. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh my God, Anthony, you did it. You remove the scratch. So when you machine polish, you're actually introducing heat to the panel, right? So what I'm doing is I'm swelling up the clear coat. So it may look like I'm removing the scratch completely, but it's still kind of there. But I will say that's a massive improvement, and that right there tells me that it's not all the way through to bare metal by any means. It might be down to base coat in a couple little small spots, but from what I can see here, I have what remains of a little bit right here, a little bit right here. This is gone. This is virtually gone right here. Again, they half-assed it. Started here, said this wasn't deep enough, really dug in to make sure they're going to hell for sure, and then they let off right here. So I'm gonna come back through with a little bit more 3000 in just this section, not up here, and then buff this out once more, and I think I'm gonna call it good. All right, so I think that we've gotten pretty lucky with this scratch. Honestly, I can still see something that's kind of lightly there, but we're gonna go ahead and throw on our foam pad and just kind of finish it out. And again, this is going to remove the scratches that are put in by the wool pad. Take our towel, buff that out. Last step here is just throw on some protection, just because I've removed all of the ceramic coating from this area right here. So we'll just throw on another bit of something and then call it good. All right, so we're gonna just re-ceramic coat just this area right here, just kind of do a spot coating. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my G-Technic panel wipe, just a paint prep product, go over that area, make sure to remove all the polishing oils. All right, for the touch-up job, I'm just using Crystal Serum Light from G-Technic, and I'm using my applicator pad. So this ended up being a scratch removal and a kind of a repair your ceramic coating, because this whole thing is ceramic coated, and I don't think it helped necessarily with the key mark, because it's not really, doesn't have that much physical abrasion capability, but I would say, I don't know, keeps the paint shiny and clean, which is nice. So apply a little bit of my coating here to my applicator. Pretty easy. Take that. We're going to apply it just to the area I polished over. Go a little bit over. Anyways, we're going to let that set up here just for about, I don't know, about 3 minutes, 4 minutes or so, and then wipe it off. All right, so everything's started to bead up there on the coating, so we're just going to go ahead and buff that off, and it's nice and smooth. Very, very easy to do. Make sure there's no high spots there. We'll kind of flip our towel to a different section. buff that out. All right, so ceramic coating removed. There we go. How to turn a bad situation into a somewhat better situation. Again, I probably cashed in a lot of good karma points from one thing or another, and this worked out for me, but it could have been deeper, it could have been worse, and this could have possibly needed a respray, and we got super lucky with the habit only being in the clear coat itself. I think that's just really more the fact that this is a newer vehicle that has good clear coat, that's never been buffed before, and that also has never been through a car wash. I've hand washed it forever, so the clear on here was good to go. So anyways, guys, hopefully you learned something new. This ended up being more of a how to remove a scratch and how to touch up your ceramic coating. If your car has been keyed, I am so sorry. That sucks. If you're watching this video looking for a remedy, hopefully this information helps, but in the case that your whole car has been keyed by a crazy ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, there's not much I can do there. So either do this process or simply take it to a body shop. So hopefully you guys learned something new in today's video. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this kind of content, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe down below for more, and stay tuned for the aftershots.